Now, London's City AM paper, that's a free paper, carries the latest news on the US economy. Share indexes were all up at close last night. Unemployment claims fell to a 5.5-year low.
Did you feel like you just had to get that in?
More information is good, right?
And the Times, which you pay for here in the UK, has the tale of a pop star and an antique ring. How about this? Kelly Clarkson bought an heirloom worn by Jane Austen, but she's banned from taking it out of the UK. So you can have it, but you ain't leaving with it.
And if you don't know who Kelly Clarkson is, stay tuned because we'll let you know. Well, Cornelia Meyer probably knows who Kelly Clarkson is. She's the CEO of MRL Corporation, a business consultancy. Good morning, Cornelia.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Let's start with the International Herald Tribune then, and the Snowden saga and the latest episode. He's been granted a year's temporary asylum in Moscow, in Russia rather, anywhere in the country he can go, and the White House is not best pleased.
No, I mean, because from a White House perspective, he is not a whistleblower. He is a felon. And I guess from a Russian perspective, I guess Russia is sort of looking at this differently, and this is sort of another chip in the high stakes poker that Russia and the US are playing with each other.
I don't think I'm allowed to do the gesture, but is this Putin kind of a couple of fingers up at the US, in particular Obama, or even one finger up at Obama?
I think so. I mean, that is one thing, but then on the other hand, probably they have been given a lot of very valuable information by Mr. Snowden. So, you don't know what deals have been struck between the Russians and Mr. Snowden whilst he was in Sheremetyevo.
It does seem, as you were saying, Aaron, it does seem as though President Putin doesn't really mind the fact that relations between Russia and America are in a very bad condition. They're very, very poor. They disagree on almost everything. In the recent G8 meeting, we saw the body language between the two was very awkward and frosty.
Absolutely, and I think he feels there is no reason to be nice.
Well, an indication of the country that Edward Snowden is going to enjoy his one-year asylum in. This is in the Moscow Times, and gay propaganda law to be enforced at games. Explain, Cornelia, if you can, what the Russians consider gay propaganda to be.
Well, I think what they say they consider gay propaganda to be, you shouldn't have gay propaganda amongst minors. They're worried about the minors being corrupted to a lifestyle that is not conducive to it. And it's very interesting because if we tie it with the previous story, on one hand they seem to go for liberty with Mr. Snowden, but then internally it's a pretty oppressive regime.
And now there are calls, aren't there, for a boycott for the Olympics in 2014.
Well, yes, it could be very damaging for this.
That could be very damaging, but I don't think. Look, we've done the boycotting of the Moscow Olympics, and we've done the boycotting of the LA Olympics. I think, but until then, there's still a lot of water going under that bridge, and they'll get along in the end on that one, because nobody wins with a boycott from the Olympics.
No, very true indeed. Okay, let's talk about the Independent. Now, this is the new stop and search spot checks at stations in hunt for illegal immigrants. Stop and search, a very controversial, of course, topic over here, probably many places, but certainly over here. But this one in particular is talking about, the hunt for illegal immigrants at stations.
Yeah, it's odd, because you would say illegal immigrants will be hunted in in airports and in stations where you have cross-border, such as Waterloo Station or places like that. It's controversial, but then on the other hand, if you're an illegal immigrant, you're illegal. So
Yeah, but the problem is, and I think that's the point that the Independent is dwelling on, is the fact that anybody who looks like an illegal immigrant is going to be stopped, and that could be you, that could be me. Just because
absolutely. we might look one, and that's very difficult. And that's the profiling saga that is going on, and that's especially when you go into anti-terrorism immigration. It's at airports. You're getting stopped because you look Middle Eastern, because you might be a terrorist, and that's profiling, and that's bad.
T-shirt.
Yeah. Well, no, very true. Should we move on and
go on to
Financial Times?
Fabulous fab.
Fabulous, fabulous fab. not so fabulous anymore. And again, we should stress, everybody sort of says, he was known as Fabulous Fab. He actually coined that term himself. He called himself Fabulous Fab.
Well, whatever it is, it is good that action has been taken, but as your previous package showed, it's the small guy. He's a relatively small junior fighter that gets and not the big guys. But it is this. When you sell, he was selling CDOs which were picked, where the underlying assets were picked by a hedge fund that then bet against them, and that is fraudulent. But for investors, what they should think is, if you don't understand the product, don't buy it. If it takes a Nobel Prize laureate to understand the product, by all means, market it to the Nobel Prize laureates.
I mean, at some point, he didn't even understand them. I mean, when this crisis unfolded, we learned a lot of the investors who were selling, and you mentioned CDOs and that, but perhaps the viewers around the world who don't follow this particular thing. We're talking about these investments that they all pooled, that were pooled together.
They collateralized the debt. It's collateralized debt obligations. They collateralized the debt.
And a lot of it linked to the subprime mortgage market, and that collapsed, and so did these investments.
But still, we haven't learned. There's still so many investment opportunities out there, which you have to be sort of a PhD in mathematics to understand.
Now I think we're going to have to skip over City AM. Largely because we haven't got enough time, and I have promised Cornelia an explanation as to A, who Kelly Clarkson is, and why her acquisition of a £150,000 ring is causing a bit of a stir.
Well, I have never heard of Kelly Clarkson until I read this, but apparently she won American Idol, and she's a country singer, and she sings well. I've never heard her sing, but apparently she sings well.
She sings pretty good.
Okay, so you see, there's somebody who's up with... Well, it is apparently the Culture and Sports Ministry can stop artifacts that are seen as culturally relevant from being exported for a time. If they've been sold, they can look for an English buyer or a British buyer to match the price. But I'm a bit unhappy with that, because on that basis, half of the British Museum would have to be returned.
You just took the words out of my mouth. Go to the British Museum. Absolutely.
Would have to be returned, and we have an international arts market. So, whereas as a British subject, it makes me sad to see the ring leave.
We have to stop it there. Thank you so much.
You've got to go, Cornelia Meyer. Well said, though.
Leaving us with another strain of controversy. Thanks for being with us.
Bye-bye.